Does masking tape tear the surface of your watercolor paper? Or do you want to add white details on your watercolor painting without using masking fluid? Watch this video for those and more beginner painting tips. Hi everyone! Welcome to another unofficial YouTube Artists Collective video, and let's get on with the sketching and painting tips. My idea was to make a playing card design of one of the Queen cards, so I needed two characters and one of them had to be upside down. Obviously, I couldn't find an exact reference photo for my idea from free stock photo sites, so I made it by combining three images in GIMP. And in order to make the sketching easier, I added a grid on the reference and used the grid drawing method for my sketch. By the way, if you like my ethnic girl line art and would like to color some of them, you can check out my printable coloring books and calendars in my Etsy shop. You'll find the link on the video or below. I then used graphite transfer paper to transfer the sketch onto watercolor paper, but if you sketch directly onto the watercolor paper, use watercolor pencils and choose a light color or some color that suits your color scheme so you can dilute the sketch lines when you're painting and they won't be visible anymore. If you're using masking tape to keep your paper flat and in place while painting, like I am, the masking tape might tear the paper when you're peeling it off. One thing that helps is to tape it down on some other surface first, like your arm or the table, to get rid of some of the stickiness, and then the tape won't stick to the paper as tightly and tear it when you're peeling it off. Use a kneaded eraser to fix mistakes and refine your sketch. It won't produce eraser dust and mess up your paper like a normal eraser would. Keep the water in your water jar clean so your colors won't turn muddy. You won't need to change the water as much if you use two jars. One for dipping the brush in water while painting and the other for cleaning your brush while you're changing colors. That way the painting water will stay clean longer and most of the color residue is in the cleaning water. I'm painting two girls with different skin tones for this piece, and one of the things I struggle with is mixing skin tones. I can't give you exact amounts of colors, but I can tell you which pigments I use. I use a mix of cadmium red, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Sometimes I also add white to the mix, but I don't think I used it for this painting. And for darker skin tones or shading, I add cobalt blue and burnt umber. And I just add a bit of the colors and mix, add more and mix until I have the right tone. But do take into account that watercolor gets lighter when it dries. One technique to add darker or stronger colors or shade with watercolor is layering. Start by covering the whole area with the lightest shade, and after it's dry, add another layer on top on the parts you want to shade. And you can keep adding more layers, although how many layers you can add depends on the paper you're using. I did this technique for the skin and the gradient in the background, for example. And speaking of waiting for a layer to dry, if you don't want to use a blow dryer to speed up the drying time, just work on another part of the painting while you wait for the layer to dry. I went back and forth with the two sides of this painting instead of finishing one side first and then moving on to the other. Even though I just told you to start with the lightest color, you can also lift paint with a wet brush. I like to use this method for adding highlights on the chin or the forehead. Try lifting the paint with a damp brush before the layer is completely dry. It can't be completely wet either, because a puddle of watercolor would just fill the area back up again. You can also use a clean, wet brush and a paper towel to fix mistakes by lifting the paint. Before the last two tips, let's talk about this YouTube Artists Collective theme. The theme is versus, so it's a very open theme you can interpret any way you want. I wanted to do something with opposites. The first theme this year was a tarot card design, and I made one playing card design for Inktober ones too. and I wanted to continue with that by designing one of the queen cards so that the two sides of the card are opposites of each other. Day versus night, warm versus cold, in terms of colors and mood. One would have warm and bright colors with orange as the main color, and the other would have colder colors with blue as the main color. One side would be an African portrait and the other one an Indian portrait. I've been taking part in all of the YouTube Artist Collective and Animal Artist Collective themes this year, and these final themes of the year are no exception. But unfortunately they fell on the same week this time, so my Animal Artist Collective video will go up next week instead. And I link to a playlist below to all the YouTube Artist Collective videos, so you can find them easily. Next tip is that if you like strong colors and just can't achieve them with watercolor, you can combine other mediums with watercolor. In this painting, I'm using Box watercolor pens to add some darker and brighter details. If you want to use white in watercolor paintings, you should leave those parts unpainted from the beginning, so that the white of the paper is your white. That can be tricky without masking fluid. And what if you only think of it at the end of your painting, or you don't want to use masking fluid? I decided at the end that I want a white outer glow for the characters. Well, you can cheat by adding white with another medium such as a gel pen or white acrylic paint, as I'm doing here. I also used a cold metallic acrylic paint for adding a necklace and some other jewelry on the Indian side of the painting. Now that you've learned these painting tips, head on over to my watercolor tutorials and tips playlists you'll see on the screen to learn about making cool watercolor effects, as well as combining watercolor with ink or acrylics, and ways to use the watercolor pens you saw in this video. See you there!